This skill is enteral feedings. This is a skill that we have to do for people that cannot eat by mouth. And usually it's long term when we're doing the gastrostomy tube. You can also do it by the nasogastric tube. But since most of our folks in the nursing centers where we'll be going this semester are gastrostomy tubes, then we're going to be doing it through the gastrostomy tube. The first thing you want to do is check the chart again, and you're looking to see what type of formula. Is it full strength, the amount, the time, the frequency of it. Also, you want to look and see how they've been tolerating it before, because if they've had issues with residual as far as how much was left in their stomach before you start the feeding each time, then you might want to take and be extra careful about what you give them and how you assess them. Not that we wouldn't be careful anyway. Once I get through with the chart again, I've checked the allergies, worried about latex again, or worried about food allergies. In this case, we're going to give Ensure, and we're going to give 50 milliliters of Ensure this time when we come down. And sometimes the doc will order specific water, when we should give water and how much. So you always want to look for that also. Okay, now you want to go and wash your hands and gather your supplies. We're going to stethoscope because we may need to listen to lungs in the abdominal area. You're also going to have a pad to protect them so if we spill, we don't get them wet. Gloves, we have the Ensure here, and then we have regular tap water. And it's tippet, not hot, not cold water that you've got there. And we've got our pH paper to check placement. And we also have an irrigation bottle with a syringe here. Okay. Come down to the room. You want to take and come in. You want to identify your patient. This is Mrs. Johnson. I'm Rose Miller. I'm going to be giving your tube feeding to you today. So I want to explain everything I'm going to be doing to her before we start. Then I want to provide privacy. Okay. If you haven't done so, you may want to go ahead and do a quickie abdominal assessment. Again, you're listening for bowel sounds because you always want to have bowel sounds if you're going to be feeding someone. Okay, once you get finished with that, you want to look at the general skin color to know what their normal skin color is in case they run into trouble. Because if we run into trouble with this skill, it's going to be aspirating into the lung, abdominal distension. So do a respiratory assessment, color, how well they're breathing, and how often they're breathing, 16 to 20 a minute, nice, easy, regular, no distress, and the abdominal area for distension. Once you get through with that, then you want to go ahead and gather everything you've got. What I've got here is I went ahead and measured the water out, and I went ahead and measured the Ensure out. Ensure lots of times will come in a 240 milliliter can. If you're not going to use it all, you can take and put a cup of tape over it and save it for 8 hours. But normally, as a rule of thumb, what we don't use, we usually toss out. Okay. All right. So now we've explained what we're going to do, and she's happy to go along with us. We're going to go ahead and get our gloves on. Very important that we put the head of the bed up, and she's in an up position, so that's good. Only expose what we need to, and I've got the curtain pulled, so I still try not to expose any more than I have to. And in this case, this is our gastrostomy tube here. And I want to go ahead and move everything over so I'll be able to reach it. Now, what you want to do here is to take and instill 30 milliliters of air, and I'm going to clamp this off. This is just like the nasogastric tube. Every time you take the plug out, you want to clamp it off so they don't wind up sucking a bunch of air in their tummy and getting distended. Once I get this in, I can open it up. Okay? Now put your cap, your plug on the bed, because otherwise, if you don't, you're going to be chasing it around in the floor. Now we want to go ahead and put these in. We're going to listen anywhere around the gastrostomy tube, and you want to push it in quickly. And what you should hear is the gastric sound. You'll hear a swoosh. Now we want to aspirate back, okay? And we're going to say that in this time, checking the residual, how much is left from the last feeding, looks like maybe about 5 milliliters. Okay. When I pull this out, because now I need to check the pH, again, I've got it clamped. I'm going to plug it off and lay it right there. I will take my pH paper here and just hold it over the garbage can, shoot a little bit of the gastric contents on it, and again, compare it to my paper here, and it looks like we're at a 4.5. That's our pH. Okay? So that's great because that's a good indication that we're in the abdomen. We only had 5 cc's back of residual. That's how much that was left from the last feeding, which is good. Your book recommends anything 200 or above to clamp the tubing and the hold or to follow your policy wherever you're at working. Now, the next thing we want to do, and we usually let all of this run by gravity. We don't want to force anything into the abdominal area. Again, clamp it off. Put your plug over on the table. We're going to insert this. Now, this is an open system that I've got here. And what I'm going to do is add 30 of water. And the reason why I'm doing that is to make sure it'll flush what I aspirated back up through and that everything's going to go through fine. Okay, the higher I hold it, the quicker it'll run. Okay, I try to clamp it off so that they do not get any air. She looks fine. Looks like everything's working well. Now I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to put 50 milliliters of Ensure in. She's got a little multivitamins here too, it looks like. Okay, you can kink it off to slow it up or raise it and lower it. Okay, if you look right here where my finger is, you can see how fast it's going down. You can talk with her while you're standing there. You know, how was the night? What did you watch on TV? When was the last time you saw your children? Were they in yesterday? Just anything to help pass the time. But you want to run this in, and it should take about 1 to 2 milliliters every couple of seconds to go in. And as you can see, when I raise it, it runs fast. When I lower it and kink it, it slows it up. Now when I get down to about 2 to 3 milliliters, I'm going to clamp it off because I don't want a bunch of air in her tummy. I'm going to follow off with 30 milliliters of water. Okay. And I got this from my chart from the order. Now when this goes in, I'm going to let it run all the way down to there. And then I'll clamp it off. Okay, there you go. Clamp it off. Okay. Make sure she's still doing okay. Feeling all right? Stomach looks good. Respirations look good. Skin color looks good. I'll clean all of this up and put this back. Put her gown down. Pull everything up here. See if she needs anything. If there's anything that she needs. If she doesn't, then I'll put the bed back down in the low position. It's best to leave the head of the bed elevated for 30 minutes after you feed someone. If you think about it, you wouldn't go to bed right away after you finished eating a heavy meal. So leave the head of the bed in the high Fowler's position, which is most crucial. When lawsuits come over this particular scale, it's usually because we didn't put the bed up high enough and they aspirated. Or we put the bed back down too soon, the head of the bed, and they aspirated. So the head of the bed needs to stay up for at least 30 minutes until she's had time to digest some of it. And then you can come back in 30 minutes to check her and make sure it's all right and put the head down. In the meantime, though, go ahead and clean everything up. Anything left over gets put in the commode. The syringe gets washed out, which is regular tap water, and then it should be in a bag that's left apart and put in a bag to dry. And we change these syringes out in the irrigation tray itself every 24 hours. Okay, everything's cleaned up. She doesn't need anything else. I'll wash my hands and I'll go and document.